Well, my last video was to, to honor, his honor, all the honors of the judges with their honor, with their natural science that is since founding forbid its course, and that's relevant as an identity of awareness, as an identity of truth that we were supposed to have enabled with the little kids especially, because that's where the short logic is. That's where the short words, so short convictions are, attached to opinions. So we have opinions left in a trap that our founders wanted us to demonstrate, how they forced people to a quality of fact treatment nature that can't defend itself, /s, and itself at the same time as integrity. So it has to be intended in criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, of truth treatments, of facts treatments, of fact treatments, fact-finding treatments, of defenses of that, which are simultaneously defenses of criminally foreign influence premises treatment, sequence treatments. For example, this is relevant this is now I'm speaking to Fox News and the judges this time, because I'm begging you guys, in the the network, anyone, respond, but not with like test and follow mandated law. What was being reported is the interbranch in collusion with this. When I had two speech teachers, I never had a verbal conversation with when I was in high school. But both of them were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with a series of predicate acts on and off my street through time that are actually recorded, where I'm an individual, and this is where we can show this is attached to each individual sickly, distinctly. All difference is being and having been employed to and as fact treatment nature identities of names and jobs, of titles, only capable of defending themselves again by self-valuing, increasingly criminally foreign influence premises treatments, physical delusions, but simultaneously as rules, crimes, predators, pretending to be for mandated law, but that's what's actually recorded. Like, they painted themselves in the corners, respectively, you guys, interbranch with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones, killers, people with body dumping spots, in ways that show how investigators, and vetting identities through time. So there's a Frank Natal. I don't know Frank Natal. He had a girlfriend that, per other people, that was I never had a class with her or anything like that. And then when I was in 1993, outside of so there's a bunch of ways connected to Washington, D.C., and to the World Trade Center, and to the investigations of that, also with military, police families that are involved with identity theft /fraud, and how uses of that, which is like the same way a computer works, to all identity ground locations. And just like how the politicians have to go home after work, then the CPU key works distinctly from all our potential really is native pure though. And that's relevant, for example, to correlation with those, because this is when kids are in school, they have the means to discern the interbranch communicating their physical delusions and their uses of criminally foreign influence premises treatments, time treatments, for example, simultaneously too fast, too slow, in collusion with that which is to all identity ground locations, not by accident, kept needing to hide. Positive and negative treatments that are in collusion as both. That's why inventions work or not in relationship to what is simultaneous. and they are further positive or not in relationship to the identity of relationship that it has to itself, what is positive or negative as what is simultaneous. Only the extent /s of that is debatable to the individual group and together subject as what is simultaneous, as what is increasing. So it is 1 / increasing identities of volume where value is nature / nature is value. In other words, even anything can be made up. It can be positive or negative. Those values too. And so the reason people are supposed to report where they learn things is not just because things are published. Who publishes first? It's who's telling the truth. So all kinds of natures of bad things, and that's what, and including drugs and medicines. Also, they classify. In other words, they classify types of drugs, and they already did that and defended that, while in collusion with not just hypocrisy. Actually recorded uses of all self-value roles with interbranch forging and switching names today, which is the vertical part of the vertical and horizontal database part that is connected to people all along Route 3 through time. So there's a Frank Natal who was a victim, but probably demonstrably made a victim. I don't know. He's involved with investigators, men and women higher ranking than him, or whatever. If he has a rank, I don't know if he's a police form, but these are police forms that are also with a whole bunch of other nations with time instances that are in conjunction, that show the identity of the ground locations, uses by the courts also with them, involve forging names, switching names, replacing actually recorded audio and video with fabricated audio and video. Uses of, gag orders, apparently. In regards to Local 230 is also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with other unions involved with further, pilfering of money, of union and uses of people's fact-cheating nature, their identities, where they have them involved also with untimely deaths. The same people that use their roles with control with other countries with all those kinds of things. Where police have the right to lie, they have the right to be with all that. And so they made instances, like I only had that one instance on Route 3, a Pandolf family. Also victims, but if I speak about them as victims, I can't speak about how the victim-predator part is. And if we leave out that, we're leaving out the rest of the people and things involved, like the method. And an O'Brien family, and a whole bunch of people with Central Connecticut State University and with Trinity College who've been, like, for example, truths that they've been putting people to fake locations, fake audio and video on campuses that are recorded 24/7. No one's watching. They use forging and switching names and sequences to keep using outside of courts. Time too fast and simultaneously too slow for identity thefts and frauds. And they have the acting coaches with it. And they have the media and the media locations next to them. There are a whole bunch of people in ways. This is Washington, different ways. This is Washington, D.C. People want to debate that overall. while they're not following mandated laws. So I've been begging you guys to follow mandated law, to give me a response for the campus, because they want everyone to speak through others, because they've been attaching all the little kids and everyone to fake words and locations while they're forging names, switching names, the police. With the foreign, which is how it's tied to the method that keeps them needing to defend identities that are suits and ties, encounters that are victim predator knaves, so valuing collusion only capable of being fathomed. Since that breaching method that caused slavery, since before our founding parents were born, that they pretend George Washington. They measure when you hear that said. All the time you hear it say, I don't know where, but people say, on the networks, people say, oh, but George Washington had slaves, and then they only allow answers that are wrong. Because when they're evaluating people's minds, they're leaving out the collusion and the roles with the, for example, the drugs and medicine crimes, and how they have types of experts and types of courts and judges, uses of criminally foreign influence statutes and precedents, for example, also per how recorded the leaders of the prisons, leaders of the military and of Coast Guard. They pretend it's just for their colleagues or anything like that. That was set up. This was sophistication before our founding parents were born. They are recorded, so all you guys, with all respect, you guys recorded self-valuing the Constitution abridged, and you guys are offensively preventing mandated law and evidence is outside of court actually recorded, because you guys increasingly set up exceptions of people knowing each other and people not knowing each other at all, where the whole time on top of that, they're putting everyone to fake words and locations. And they're preventing a quality of fact human nature consciously in relationship to the means of a sane and properly educated little kid to express about how a breaching method was against the Native Americans and was against our founding parents, which slavery and Jim Crow laws were manifest in demonstration of. People who pretend their premises are evidences. But this is a quality of fact-keeping nature having been prevented. Also because of how remote uses of this. We're already way beyond this. But before, this was sophisticated. This is why since before cars, let alone trains, trucks, boats. We were in the infrastructure from here to Russia, to China, to Australia. Pathology of infrastructure, of means to it, scale of it, that is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Victim defenses of itself, abridged. It can't defend that and afford a quality of fact keeping nature to utilize that truth that is true always, not denying any exceptions. A breaching method was applied, sustained against Native Americans and colonists, A through Z, when you have things like that in the laws, with database relationships used to order maintenance of this, used to order maintenance of premises treatments, now through a whole bunch of other motivations, nature's needs of interest, to keep everyone stupid around them, hurt, pretend it's just about competition. We never finished liberating the Constitution unabridged. This method has simultaneously prevented integrity's voice while they have bombs. Both also the little sides. It's very simple. We have to keep it simple. And what is harder than hard is extensive, only because we use the simple revelations from the simple breaching method, the simple predicate acts delivery system method, that those laws were involved with a vertical and horizontal database relationship that is recorded why and how they have everyone maintained as victims, that are defenses of that only capable of being and having been victim predators through defenses of premises treatments, time treatments, names treatments, perception treatments. Integrity of the law meant to have this quality of fact-keeping nature. Now, who gets caught in a picture holding a beer or smoking a cigarette, for example? Or walking with who? We need real premises treatments. But people that we need a quality of fact-keeping nature that doesn't make a topic like elections crimes and then force it, or insurrection. It's being used, their insurrection treatments are being used to measure, to maintain defenses of themselves that are incapable of defending themselves and affording American history told with and as a quality of fact-keeping nature proper. The science reveals that the predicate is named the predicate in English, and the predicate act is the predicate act. Name that in law. Because of a yet abridged, but originally having been revealed by nature before criminally foreign influenced, criminally legalized, criminally foreign influenced premises, database relationships, treatments. There are proofs that each modern nation was backed into this victim-predator role, only capable of defending itself, not realizing that an archetypal criminal enterprise, if you will, an archetypal predicate act delivery system method, knew that it could take the identities, therefore the syntax, nature of every identity, ground, location of humanity, individually grouped and together into self-valued roles, blaming other things, others, and selves for what nature is demonstrating, finite, active, progressive, and sequentially. And this is a method that preemptively knows this. So already used our justice departments, our whole justice systems, our whole Department of Justice used everything, every identity, ground, location already. Criminally foreign influence, pretending other. What motivations would they have with that? That time treatment's always simultaneously too fast, too slow. No, after people, those people that are like where there are shootings in the whole place the whole time, and the people are there. Our theory on it, the people studying it and stuff like that. Those locations have recorded. They have. This is the method that has the sense and sensibility of it. No one's going to complain about other people using drugs and things like that, and then into circle then where people interact you. No one's going to want to talk to you. No one wants people to get in trouble. And the people that do want people to get in trouble, they're doing it dishonestly, but they're only capable of it here and there. Hundreds of nations at once, shared here and there. All manifest tied to that. All locations. And the locations next to the locations. This is exploiting how we are fact-keeping nature as a value/value progression, as the identity of volume, as volume science, as the science of relativity. Using what is true always, not denying exceptions, because it is the exception nature that demonstrates to us. When 5 identities of sequence/simultaneous nature are positive to themselves simultaneously, that causes evolutions, fruits, and gifts, means everywhere instantly at once. When they are not, even if it's a positive treatment, like in other words, democracy is important. The republic's important. And they're both abridged. Both democracy and the republic itself are abridged. the parties are breaching screen tools. Alternatives are breaching screen tools to what is recorded actually. Conscious, complete possession over the people intercities connected with this actually recorded. Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with remote uses of each age of, of our mayor's kids and themselves, in collusion with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones, and with people associated, all the people associated with crime scenes, body dumping spots, on off the state judicial branch offices, all along Route 3. There's a Taco Bell, and nothing personal, we'll get to this. And then you have to use the identities of the businesses. Then people pretend passions and emotions. This is the same way they're using family members, by pushing people into instances and pretending it's for reasons other than they were. And when it's not true, they're preventing demonstration of what is actually recorded simultaneously, which is relevant to where and how too. They are active right now. They have not responded to me. They're pretending they didn't understand me. I only had short sentences with them. The principal child offender, proven per them, but these are the same news that were roles with him when I called there first. They replaced what is actually recorded on the campus's Facebook pages with fabricated audio and video, per the recorded roles of the policings and the roles with the police forums, roles with all natures of programs, like Cub Scouts. They have these are all identity ground locations, uses of corners, where they have fact, cheating nature oriented predicate acts used to consciously maintain collusion with that which is really going down, with our police stations corruption, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, and confirmed that everyone has collusion with, including the news reporting on it. But see, everyone wants to have these overall debates where everything's left up because that's what was only heard. That's why mandated law was supposed to be followed outside of courts. So there's been a long, sustained breaching method against the people of Hartford, Connecticut, let alone, and of Wethersfield, Connecticut, sickly distinctly. And the same, there's a LEahy family that pretended conversations with me behind my back since I was a kid, with various natures of courts, and people involved with them with their kids now with the identity thefts and frauds that was sustained through years, and with roles with the sexual, medical, overt drugs, crimes, and stuff like this, because they get people to use words like crimes outside of courts. The sense and sensibilities of courts that have been using words like crimes criminally every moment because they're victim predators, and with delusions, and as rules crimes predators, and they've had to hide life aggressions. And that's also relevant to the vertical and horizontal database method. So where they separate our, quote, experts, unquote, types of crimes and types of involvements regarding locations, including of private and public school at the same time, for what is actually recorded. See, these are people switching subjects because they don't want to speak about what is simultaneously, but not honestly. So there are 2 speech classes I had that are also involved with the police forums, involved with predicate acts each year on my street, that are with people intercities connected to it. And these are fact, cheating nature oriented predicate acts roles, falsified police reports, roles with uses of the very identity of volume /S. For example, of the difference and the non-difference between FBI and CIA and Secret Service, and their roles with the people speaking and interviewing the presidents after having been involved with this, juxtaposed in many ways, intercities, lipoaggression cover-ups, per the predicate act's roles with overt criminal enterprises and with our branches of government and with their kids, how they and people tied to them, private simultaneously. Time kept needing to hide the same sequence shifts, finite, active, progressive, lies roles with lie progressions, identity thefts and frauds roles. There's an identity theft and fraud role with all the other roles and motivations of people who are claiming to be legitimate, and where they're increasingly self-valuing illegitimate, courts from on-off campuses, from on-off homes. This is a crime method that keeps collusion with courts that use simultaneously too fast and too slow. Used to get over on what is active forever nature, making more of itself. Only the extent of it is debatable. The ancients would more practically than what is told to us, say that everyone observe how everyone has a semi-nature relationship to that identity of value progression, that inventions work or not in relationship to it, and they are positive or not in relationship to it. So there are criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments, where and how the branches of government and the agencies, individually grouped and together, there were phrases like the perfect world, and all words / values are being and having been used insidiously. That defends us. So positive and negative treatments where we are a value / value progression, where instances are oncoming and only increasing, where we are memory from locations, ground locations. We are in a trap that is database oriented before computers. The experts on computers are recorded, self-valued, what they're trying to hide, all at once realizing it, because they were trained that, because we left out how all identity ground locations were still employed by a criminally foreign influenced method that not just used that, used the premise, the roles with that. You use the identity, the identity ground location. This method knew that, and demonstrably most probably still knows, still active. Even if not, even if it's only through the phenomenon where they are individually and grouped and together, each country has identities of law that speak for it. Fake for the it's not just for the reasons known. Boxing gets grown and sings. Boxing, 2 words. Just there's nature. There's not just the spirit of the law, not just the. In other words, there are these native short words. There are revelations. So, in closing, I thought it was, when there's natural, when there's natural reasons, this person knows this person is going to be in that class, and I mean that you think that things are natural. For example, when you're a little boy or girl, and you're gonna meet other people, and you think there's apparent motivations of people that know that these girls are gonna, they're gonna see him when he walks here, and we're gonna be walking here, pretend we know him. And it's me a context where you have no means to communicate with people. Also because of what is simultaneously being and having been exploited, consciously. Also again in relationship to the vertical and all that is to the vertical and horizontal breaching method. So they have all these sick punishments, self-valued, and defenses of that because they need to hide from people who would be able to develop a quality of fact-cheating nature from inside the prisons if they did things properly, not if they did things violently. See, but they're forcing violence. So where they have the guns and they have uses of smoke and the investigators of it, investigations of everything. You have to understand how they were already used with predicate acts. WFSB attached me to fake words with this. So they're not going to use having to hide their roles with, and I don't know the Doobie family. There's a Doobie family, that a DeMorrow family, and that a Colello family said was involved with the police forms and the courts that confirmed roles with them and with overt criminal enterprises and with people associated with body dumping spots and all along Route 3, with instances in the past where they were where they make where they're influenced to predicate acts roles. And then so they can bring people to courts where they use time always too fast and too slow, or they bring people to interactions with, or to locations around that walk by or whatever, and then they just write whatever. They write fake things, box things. In other words, that's why Joaiello has and others tied to him recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed he's involved with the ones in Wethersfield that have my name involved. They lied to me. There's a I don't know what his real name is, a Brian Salvo. They had something to do. They attached me. I never met him. They attached me and other kids to fake words and locations, and they bully him. But they weren't. But I don't know if that was made up, because they have uses of words like bully, where they're pretending passions and emotions interbranch because they're for names forging and switching, because of how they've been using the identity, the ground locations, intercities. Now there's a Phil Colello that a Bob Chase recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed, is one of the ones involved with him with rules crimes, and with them forging and switching names, falsified police reports, roles, evidence racketeering with various natures of courts, and their roles with drugs and medicines crimes, with the people supposed to be against such, and their roles with people with untimely death spots, tied to their narratives, and they're preventing me anything in writing to respond to. All exceptions and exception nature are recorded being and having been employed criminally for and influenced. Delusions raw, identity thefts and frauds roles too, because it's a method where and how it attaches to every single person. People want to deny it, but they get, in other words, you guys, please follow mandated law. I've been asking you guys for a long time. I need a response from the campus. My town's police chief and 1 year ago are also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, confirmed as the ones involved, as ones on off the Ninth Circuit Court and on off the World Trade Center, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with extortion acts and threats and methods coordinated intercities in relationship to the off-campuses parts that show and were confessed, demonstrated, recorded, connected to the on-campuses parts. They have the sense and sensibilities of all these names of people speaking through other people, and they're exploiting that. So when police go to interact with people, they're trained to, they're also criminally foreign influenced to separate subjects. And so I don't know about that. And then they say, oh, we're going to let courts deal with that. while they're forging names, switching names, and stacking things. Now that's someone who's going to value that having been done. Boxing is fun. Excuse me. So there's a Whiting forensics place that is involved with them with the transition from ACA to RICO, and they were recorded how they have the sense and sensibilities of President Trump and of President Obama and of President Biden. But I'll leave that out because that's active now, and that's all relative changing, and that came first. So that comes first now. That's why it's, for example, the ancient proper correlation, proper logic, proper reason, with no physical delusions, has means and needs to speak other than we're being allowed to speak, because people are attaching us to fake words in confession and locations. Now they make confessions about this, as you'll see when mandated law is followed. So please respond for the campus. I know that there are courts criminally involved. Respond for them too, but I want to do one at a time. That's that what they've, because it's recorded. They've been sequential. They've been sustaining uses of the phones and of crime methods through the kids on and off campuses. So I want to be real careful, because they're attaching me to, they're replacing what is actually recorded over the phones with fabricated audio and video as ones associated with the World Trade Center attack, and with cover-ups of it with the investigators and with the military. See, but this is where and how they're supposed to hide things about how they are together. This is what correlation nature has means to reveal, inherently, actively, and progressively, by using their recorded sequence shifts, self-valued, and uses of that recorded time. It's not complicated. So I want to know, there's a Robert Rodriguez who's with Wethersfield Police, and the people that answer the phones for them through time, who recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They use their roles with the drugs and the qualities of the drugs with the kids, and through their own, to maintain people collusion, criminally foreign influenced, with what has been using, where and how. Everyone originally still self-values. Time used always too fast, too slow, and knave. And resources and money narratives in relationship to where and how the forsaken are forsaken. Formerly, kids with DCF were hurt by the people that made that has to be hid, simultaneously leading up to and since the World Trade Center attack. These are databases in the prisons, like in Sandy Hook, with those schools, with the fire departments, in the prison there. The people those people are tied to them are kept needing to hide life progressions because of remote uses of themselves involved with predicate acts, identity thefts and frauds instances, timed, that are also involved with as recorded, actually recorded conscious uses of all along Route 3, even the all along Route 3 to on off CCSU. Even physical doctors attaching people and their patients to roles with them and their patients to roles with identity thefts and frauds instances, and predicate acts and/or predicate acts roles instances. And so then they have people pretending passions and emotions with the courts and with the police forms, using their names and sensibilities and to pretend they want privacy. They pretend, they keep saying, oh, call the police. I called the police. They said that they forged names, switched names. And they keep stacking names, so they stack the amount of families They put their family members in so they have even a Trantolo and Trantolo. They're recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with a whole bunch of other lawyers, all lawyers, too. Individually grouped and together, originally and still, with the branches of government, individually grouped and still. Let them try to speak for what Jim Crow laws were about. They can know more than me. But I'm using what is true always, not denying exceptions. I'm following the breaching method. So then when you perceive people doing things, natural things, like, they're gonna be, it's class placements too. Not for the reasons they're saying. And then they want to bring in the debatable when to keep the science out. So they self-value too, offensively, how they have theories that are delusions wrought and criminally foreign influence and incapable of their defenses of their premises treatments, like with the theory of relativity. You don't even have to know what it is. There is a real identity of relativity, and that is prevented free speech, and that shows what it is better than, because everyone has different takes on what it is. People are debating non-premises, and then they're self-valuing. It blamed on other things other than self when nature continues to demonstrate negative value, nature progressions, acts, nature's and demonstration of it. Predicate acts. These are what demonstrate. It is observable how the sciences share an identity, and that's why and how it is left over, manifest still, even though everyone was only capable of being backed into that logic, like the overt criminal enterprises and like the private ones, and like the killers, like the people associated with the body dumping spots that were already involved with investigators since, and people speaking through others that are connected to Washington D.C. and to the World Trade Center anyway, like a ropes program, any program they have though. What's that mean? Hundreds of people from both that are both parties. They're already delusions wrought with their opinions in relationship to where and how people ask to have mandated law, individuals. They are separating our voices. They are forcing us into groups, or they are forcing us to isolate individuals, identity thefts and frauds. So they have something to do with they used people along the Berlin Turnpike, police forms, interbranch, also involved with those names and those people that made instances that pretended to know me and that made positive and negative treatments insidiously that are relevant to where and how they use no one wanting to speak about drugs because no one wants to get anyone hurt by the people that are countering that and are supposed to be countering it, because those are people that are just using the databases. That even though things are recorded on hospitals, they replace what is actually recorded with fabricated audio and video. And those are the people involved with what really furthers most. Roles with wire crimes, mail crimes, timed. And then with the people that had those instances. And also because of the confessions, are about roles with other natures of insidious things, where everyone's speaking through others. These are people that knew they already used, and people that are conscious, they already used things like phrases like hearsay, formally and informally, and collusion, to hide sequence shifts, roles with arrays of fake sides. There's a bait florist, and there's a Dominic Abate, who's one of the people that are recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with sequence shifts, identity thefts, and frauds, and fake conversations with me, and with officers that have been fabricating audio and video transcripts. Now these are FBI and CIA and their family members, and our overt criminal enterprises. It is also by a Kerr family, and there's a officer, there's a KNERR There's a number of names with KNERR with New Britain Superior Court's Facebook page /S. Individually grouped and together, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with them with predicate acts, stacking kids, and fabricated things into databases. They have all along Route 3 and all tied to it, and all along the route from Church Street, all along Church Street and along Main Street to and Old Wethersfield, all the way through cities to CCSU are people involved with them that I had no communication with, stuff like that, that pretended other. There's also implied tied to a woman and a man who pulled over when I was jogging one time near the corner of Walcott in that route. I have to get the name of that route. I don't know why I keep forgetting to check on that. It goes all the way up and then on off Paul Manafort Drive. And the stories and the topic treatments of Paul Manafort Drive were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Collusion with where and how the police forms use the right to lie, where they're switching names and forging names to where they don't have the rights, and they've been stacking fabricated audio and video. And where that's not true, there are also self-valued uses of the perception of others. All along Albany Avenue and on Mather Street are roles with people from CCSU and Trinity College and Watkinson School, involved with my town's police chief from 1 year ago, involved with a whole bunch of natures of child abuses and uses of the juxtaposed natures of criminally foreign influenced things manifest. Because what is manifest before and that more powerful than that are the premises treatments, are the fact treatments, the name treatments, sequence treatments, are the roles self-valuing that as victims. So everyone blames other things, others themselves, how as victim predators, where the dimensions of their premises are applied against strangers. All exceptions, exception nature, are being and having been employed by a breaching method to be exploited other, and that's maintained because they have where and how the revelations of the short words. Like, in other words, how could a kid perceive? You know, the same way we know how kids can perceive that people have other motivations and nature's needs and interests when they're speaking about things. But we don't, these are all things we know, that's life. But we also know that there is unnaturally things in there. People need to hide life progressions. People need to hide what is actually recorded. For example, when they pretend with passions and emotions they care about democracy or the flag. Pledge allegiance to America and to the identity of volume for which it stands. Then clap our hands. Vaccines. Thank you. Please respond for the campus. I want to know why and how they hid. The roles with these are people also with roles with an untimely death, even if it was made up, with the men forging names, switching names. These are also roles with various parts of Florida and like Orlando and Miami, with the Scalora family, with the foreign and with the hundreds of nations and uses of that are roles where they have such things like, again, this like drugs. So they have types of experts that are going to pretend passions, emotions, because they have the sexual crimes in there, and they have remote uses of the treatments of black and white by our courts. Personally involved with, what's actually recorded is remote uses of their treatments of everything. So now they can't afford anything coming up that is using short words properly that brings revelations everywhere. Slavery is caused by a quality of fact cheating nature, possessing, breaching method, complete possession over the quality of fact cheating nature that humanity is now. vaccines. I forgot what I was speaking to. And that's why this one's more to Fox News. And that's not to knock you guys, Fox News and CNN and MSNBC. This is trying to say, well, you guys are making things A or B. You're preventing demonstration of where all identity ground locations are preventing mandated law when someone asks to have the mandated law followed. So there are locations on, so rather than have me just keep repeating people's names and drawing this map from Wethersfield to Central Connecticut State University and the interdepartments, we should do we have to follow the actual acts, the actually recorded instances value. Now, these are people pretending to be about value because they have money. They want to have, the people, it's a success. They're using truths for lies. Yeah, you want to succeed. But I'm over here talking about the forsaken and the less forsaken, sickly distinctly and non-distinctly, because that's what goes along. Observation of what is simultaneously goes along with observation of the breaching method, the predicate acts delivery system method. See, we also have the interbranch using passions and emotions, where their defenses of it are incapable of defending themselves, because with emotions and passions are about what's simultaneous. They're only being allowed to pick out parts of it. You could have this group of people that gets along with each other or not, from the same groups, for example, cliques, with schools and things like that. Formal and informal. There's remote possession of that, individually grouped together. Originally still, that's recorded. See, but people want to debate these things. Vaccines, leaving out how mandated law is not followed, and that's self-valued. And then, you guys make all these convictions and allegations about people, with the people, like the prosecutor, like the people, the insurrection. And they have the counters. They have the only person talking to American One News or something, that President Trump is allowed to talk to. They have all the people corrupted, as a quality of fact human nature that can't defend itself, and us from what exploited that. So it is a vertical and horizontal database relationship method. Phil Colello, Fred Grisey implied that it was filmed. He pulled up one time. I don't know. He's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, involved with people since I was a kid, not responding with the way they should, because I recorded them with uses of juxtaposed natures of organized crime and of killings. And I know I can explain it better now, because I know because of how the vertical and horizontal part makes not just confession, where I could say whatever. That's what they pretend in the background, not to understand me. That's confessions in relationship to what is recorded, the interbranch forging and switching names, falsifying police reports, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with their sources, forced and tricked to hurt to roles. That's because they had roles with the locations crimes, and against the people innocent they put away. And what's really recorded is roles and uses of that remotely in relationship to the sustained juxtaposed natures of distinct predicate acts delivery system methods, plural, method / S, against the people where there are shootings in the locations all the time. These are fact, cheaply nature-oriented and exploiting, then physically, increasing physically nature. Criminal insidious natures of positive and negative treatments, motivations apparent, all ulterior from the actual and from the breaching methods, roles with the actual, as we may agree to be actual, still abridged, not admitting reliefs in relationship to that breaching method perfected against Native Americans and against the colonists and against our founders even after their deaths, posthumanists. Please have Connecticut courts, but please have the campus speak first for why and how they did this, because they also said they had the family members of other principals with the same school having been involved, with also where they have used, how they have the roles with the drugs used, crimes and overt criminal enterprises in private, and all the programs roles and collusion with sequence shifts and stuff like that used where they start fighting with people, between the people, and that's used remotely. In other words, they're just keeping things going before courts, using time always too fast, too slow. Same thing with the police. So we don't have people told how to pull over, what to do, because I'll donate a design for them, because they have we have to survive money. They only allow people to think like that and be successful if it's going to be abridged. They can use it in their roles with handed up, all victim, where everyone's victim is it, because they're keeping the people that already were criminally foreign influenced. Uses of all the identity ground locations like campuses. For this, they use methods like switching names, and they use passions and emotions with a Debbie Gold when she was a kid, to insidiously pretend that I had a conversation with her before that, or that I was in a location I was before that I never was, and that I knew other people I didn't know. And it was also with people with various natures like pension thefts, bookmakers and Shylocks, and co-defendants of former director of the FBI and some of them as co-defendants of former director of the FBI in a 2006 case in Connecticut, a district court case. The same ones leading up to the World Trade Center attack, and since it, they've been every year since I was a little kid against me and others. Roles with also uses of all along Route 3 involved identity thefts and frauds. So I thought it was natural that people that would try to not let you, would try to mess you up and slander you behind your back to other boys and girls in contexts where you can't do anything about it, that you could find a way to get a girlfriend anyway through that. And and you never see the people again. You know what I mean? And that's relevant because they're keeping the they're making it look like they were just normal kid things. Timed like there are some people involvement with the sheriffs and with the elections crimes when that per you guys pretending other, which is also recorded. And I'm not trying to hurt you guys. That's why I'm trying to tell you. I'll sue that. I'll sign that. I won't sue. I'm just asking to have my rights followed, and it's extortion demonstrated to American people too. These are people who are involved with a vertical and horizontal database organized crime method. Now there are courts in our police forms, and in our fire departments, in our military, in our Coast Guard that were involved with fact, cheap, and nature-oriented predicate acts. There are state police, their family members, their neighbors involved with uses of names, everyone speaking through other, and then they get locked. Then everyone, you know, but there's a forensics location involved with the agencies.